Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to Hortonworks webinar, Improved Cluster Performance, Proactive Support with SmartSense 1.3. My name is Syed Mahmood. I'm part of the product marketing organization at Hortonworks, and it is my pleasure to welcome Paul Codding. Paul is the product manager for SmartSense. The objective of today's webinar is to talk about SmartSense Hortonworks proactive issue resolution service and the progress that we have made in the latest release of 1.3. But since SmartSense is part of Hortonworks' overall subscription, it would be actually worthwhile to spend a few minutes on what our customers get when they engage with Hortonworks through our subscription. So Hortonworks subscription platform consists of 4 components: SmartSense, Enterprise subscription, Premier subscription, and our educational services, Hortonworks University. Enterprise and Premier subscriptions are 2 flavors of our best-in-class support. SmartSense is part of both Enterprise HDP subscription and Premier subscription. And we launched SmartSense to proactively resolve issues and to provide recommendations to optimize the performance of your cluster. But as you'll hear from Paul, SmartSense has progressed from issue resolution to actually providing insights about your Hadoop environment. And last but not least, Hortonworks University is our self-paced learning library. So let's talk about Hortonworks and enterprise support. An enterprise support subscription is a yearly subscription that provides our customers with access to a team of Hadoop professionals who have deep expertise in running the entire Hadoop stack in production and with diverse workloads. Enterprise support subscription provides expert technical advice to cover the entire life cycle, so essentially from development and proof of concept to QA testing to production and then into going into deployment and production. We provide global support through our centers in California, North Carolina, Chile, England, India, Australia, and Japan. And in addition to providing the world-class support, enterprise subscription also provides our customers with access to committers. These are essentially people who are actually writing the code for various open source projects that are part of the Hortonworks data platform and data flow platform. If a particular issue for some reason is not resolved by support, it can be quickly routed to these committers for resolution. So enterprise support subscription also provides our customers with an avenue to drive their requirements and enhancements requests through interface with the product management organization. As we are in the open source space and 1/3 of all committers to Hadoop projects work at Hortonworks, you as customer now have the ability to communicate your requirements to committers and project management committers who actually form the community that drives the release of each Apache project, and essentially forms and formulates the project roadmap. You also have access to Hortonworks Community Connection, or HCC, which is a bulletin board and a knowledge base where you can post questions, and both internal and external members provide answers. It is actually important to point out that support engineers are active contributors to HCC and monitors HCC questions on a regular basis. So now let's talk about Hortonworks Premier support. So Premier support covers both HDP, Hortonworks Data Platform, and HDF, Hortonworks Data Flow, and goes above and beyond providing critical support. So if you subscribe to Premier support, a support engineer is assigned to your organization who actually spends 10 to 40 days on site with you. as these support engineers now have a deep understanding of your business and your entire Hortonworks stack in terms of which components you are running, which version of the platform you're running. Based on their knowledge of your environment, they can help triage, support, and process open cases, and actually interface with product management and engineering organizations on those support cases. They can also proactively identify trends and develop action plans to avoid outages. And support engineers can also help in planning important activities, such as when will you do the next upgrade, or schedule quarterly business reviews of support activity. So support engineers are essentially your single point of contact into Hortonworks for public roadmaps, briefings, and to discuss new use cases. So to summarize, what do we hear from our customers, and how does that relate to our subscription? We know that more customers are now running mission-critical applications in Hadoop, and majority of our subscriptions are being used to support these production deployments. Obviously, these production environments are not cheap to build and operate. So on average, customers spend $1.5 million to build their environments. And despite building in redundancy, disaster recovery, and other safeguards, analysts have estimated that a production instance will experience about 3 outages, and each outage will last close to 5 hours each. And we all know how difficult it is to actually hire personnel with background to support Hadoop and other open source projects. So essentially, you have a situation where you are running your mission critical applications in Hadoop with significant investment, and these instances will experience issues and outages, and you may not have all the qualified people in your organization to support this instance. And this is where Hortonworks support subscription comes into play, with 97% satisfaction score from our customers and recognized by industry analysts as best in class. So now let me turn over to Paul, who will talk about SmartSense, how it adds value to our subscription, and what is in the latest release of SmartSense. Paul, over to you.
Sounds good, Syed. Thank you very much. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you perfectly well.
Excellent. Thank you. So hey, everyone. My name is Paul Codding. I'm a senior product manager here at Hortonworks, and I'm in charge of SmartSense. So as Syed had mentioned, what we really want to focus on is what is SmartSense, what have we been up to in the last year, with a specific emphasis on what's new in SmartSense 1.3. So I'll start with kind of what have we been up to, what do we do today, effectively. So we really focus on 2 things. We focus on giving our customers faster case resolution. We also help get ahead of those specific issues, so hopefully a case isn't even necessary, by proactively monitoring their cluster and getting ahead of the issues before they become one of the outages that Syed had mentioned. So we do that through combining tools that are deployed on our customer's cluster, as well as services that we have deployed here at Hortonworks. So we integrate with Embari. We use Embari to deploy the tools within your cluster that pack up our diagnostic information, such as configuration metrics and some log files, automatically scrub that data, anonymize it, encrypt it, and get that from your cluster to our services that we use to then analyze that data and do a whole bunch of things, such as give you guys recommendations, get that information to support, as we'll see in a second. So how do those deployable tools and hosted services work together? In this case, for our faster case resolution focus, what we really want to do is take what would be a 45-minute task and 5 kind of back and forth with support without SmartSense to have your operators SSH into a machine, zip up some log files, zip up some configuration, run a bunch of commands. That takes time, and it's something that isn't super high value. So we want to automate that process. If you've got a support case, something's wrong, SmartSense helps you just go to an Embari view, click a few buttons for the components you're having issues with, and we will automatically pack up that configuration metrics and log for those specific components, anonymize that data, compress it, and get it over to support. That way, when you're working with support, the first interaction you have with them is a high-value interaction. The last thing you want is to talk to support and say, this is how many nodes I have, this is what version of HTTP and Embari I'm running, and this is what my problem is, and then they're going to go back and ask you for configuration logs. Well, if you use SmartSense, you can take that time-consuming process, cut it down to about 5 minutes, a couple clicks, and then when support gets on the phone, they know all the answers to the questions as far as how big your cluster is, what versions you have. They already have the configuration at their fingertips, ensuring you have a much more high-value interaction with support than you would without it. So what we also want to do is just get ahead of those problems. We don't want you guys to have issues. We want to make sure that we're detecting problems before they become an outage or they cause you or your tenants pain. And we do that through weekly analysis of your cluster. So with SmartSense, every week we pack up a diagnostic bundle. We send that to our SmartSense analytical service, and we process a set of rules against it to produce recommendations that really focus on two things. Number one is identifying issues and giving you recommendations to avoid those issues. Number two is looking for performance optimizations. So we want to make sure that you are squeezing the most compute power out of the hardware that you spent so much money on, and we do that through giving you configuration recommendations. We've got a lot of success stories around how we've improved our customers' performance, and one that's the most recent just happened about 2 weeks ago. We had a very large telco customer that had a 300-node cluster. They were running about 500 concurrent jobs on that cluster, and they reached out to support to say, hey, look, we want to improve our performance. So our support helped them get SmartSense installed. They produced their first bundle. They got their first set of recommendations, and by applying just 3 of those recommendations, they went from 500 concurrent jobs to 1,100 concurrent jobs. They effectively doubled the capacity of their cluster just with 3 recommendations. On average, we produce 12 recommendations per customer cluster, so just imagine what else they could benefit from by applying the rest of them. So we really want to make sure you guys understand that this will help you improve performance. And it'll also help you avoid issues. So every single week, our team meets with support. We go through the last week's Sev1 related cases. These are like production down scenarios. And out of that analysis, we create new rules. The thing that we've also recognized is for those customers that were not using SmartSense, we could have avoided 1 in 10 of those specific issues. So just by installing this piece of software that's included in your existing Hortonworks support subscription, you can increase your cluster throughput and you can reduce the amount of issues that you have. So definitely want to make sure you guys understand this is a big value to you from an operational standpoint. So how do we make those 2 capabilities happen? So like I said, we have deployable tools. They're integrated with Embari. We have our SmartSense server and our SmartSense agents. An agent is deployed on every node in your cluster, and it's a passive agent, meaning it's not running at all times, consuming CPU or memory. It's just woken up by the Embari agent framework whenever you want to perform a capture. So we say, hey, you have an issue with HDFS, click the button to capture. We wake those agents up. They capture all the diagnostic information related to HDFS that we need to help you solve that case. It gets sent to our SmartSense server, which it aggregates the data, encrypts it, and then sends it to our SmartSense service. So I'm sure you're thinking, I have a lot of clusters. They don't have outbound internet access. Am I precluded from using this service? And that's definitely not the case. We have a SmartSense gateway, which most of our enterprise users use. This gateway you can install in one place in your network infrastructure. All your internal clusters can use that one gateway to send their bundles to our service. We support outbound SFTP. We support outbound HTTPS, as well as HTTPS through an authenticated proxy. So the majority of our enterprise customers, like I say, use this, deploy one gateway. All their internal clusters just use that gateway to get data out to us so they can get recommendations. So you guys came here to talk about to see what's new with 1.3, and that's where I really want to focus. So the primary capability that we've rolled out with SmartSense 1.3 is our new activity reporting and visualization. Why did we focus on this as our next feature within SmartSense? It's because you as cluster owners and operators are getting asked a lot of really hard questions by our management, and we want to help you get those answers faster. So the types of questions that, when working with our customers, they're asking us is, hey, I need the ability to quickly report and answer questions like, who are my top 10 most active users? What yarn capacity scheduler queues are consuming the most CPU? What jobs are putting the most pressure on my name node? And a lot of our customers, before we started on this feature with SmartSense, we're trying to kind of cobble their own solutions together by looking at HDFS FS image data or looking at yarn-related information from App Timeline Server. And we wanted to do that for our customers. Enough of our customers need this. We've been, it's one of those pervasive kind of problems that we need to solve, and so we chose to tackle that with SmartSense. And how we chose to do that was to really focus on how do we pull resource utilization information out of things like Yarn, HDFS, MapReduce, and TES, pull that into a single data store that's queryable via SQL, and give our customers pre-built dashboards that can report against that utilization data. And we wanted to do the whole thing so that our customers can do that on-prem, meaning they don't have to send data to us to take advantage of this capability. This is the first capability that is completely self-contained and on-premise. You install it on your cluster, and we start pulling out that utilization data and getting it into a form you can easily report on. So let's take a look at what that looks like. Go ahead and go over and switch to Firefox. So let me know if you can see Firefox.
I can.
Great, sounds good. So in this case, we've deployed SmartSense with Embari. As you can see, we have our server and our agents, but we have two new components. We have our Activity Analyzer and our Activity Explorer. The Activity Analyzer is a component that's deployed on your name nodes and another master service within your cluster. What we do with these Activity Analyzers is pull from all the different sources. We analyze the HDFS FS image. We pull information out of the App Timeline Server for Yarn, and we consume MapReduce history data from HDFS. We basically ETL that data, aggregate it, push it into the Embari metrics system, and then we have a embedded instance of Zeppelin, Apache Zeppelin, that's made available in this Activity Explorer. So you can click on Quick Links, Activity Explorer. I'm going to go ahead and go to a system that has some more data. You'll be able to see this Zeppelin view. So this Zeppelin view gives you a set of predefined notebooks that we've created to help you better understand the resource utilization within your cluster. So I'm going to go ahead and go to our HDFS dashboard first and show you what we're capturing. So for HDFS, a lot of our customers care about, I would say kind of three primary things. One is, help me understand if I have a small file problem. Help me understand who's creating that problem. And then also, just give me some semblance of how much HDFS capacity am I using, who's using the most capacity, and allow them to kind of drill down to see individual user usage, point in time, as well as trends. So what we've done with that is we've created these specific paragraphs within this Zeppelin notebook. So we have our file size distribution that shows you, just how am I doing from a small file perspective, right? How many really small files do I have? How many small files? How many large files do I have? This allows you to kind of drill in, right? So I can change my visualization. I can make it a table. I can make it a bar chart, make a pie chart. I can kind of take things out, take series out, or double click on those series. Each one of the visualizations we have is this interactive. We also have the kind of top 10 users with small files. So in this case, we can identify who are the users that are contributing to my small file problem, for example. And we also have information about who are the largest HDFS users. If I want to scope this in to just give me the top 5, I can just say top 5, hit enter, and this is going to rerun the report and show me just my top 5. And same thing, I can kind of zoom in, zoom out, identify beside the HQ user who's the kind of the second, third, and fourth heavy hitters here. We can also look at file size distribution, the trend. So if you've identified that you've got a couple of users that are producing a lot of small file, and you've helped them understand strategies to mitigate that, you can see just, is that strategy working for you, right? Am I producing more large files or just more small files? Same thing with just utilization trends, so how much HDFS storage do I have used versus available? And then finally, kind of drill down, if you want to identify, who are the specific users that are causing, or if you've been working with individual users to, like I said, give them some strategies to mitigate their small file usage, you can just kind of take a look at the trends. So you can identify one user, say it looks like they had a spike, but we corrected that, and now they're on a good path. They're producing more large files. So you can do that for any user you have within the cluster by just typing in the user ID, hitting enter, and we refresh the dashboard accordingly. We also want to focus on helping users understand what are the jobs that are producing the most pressure on the HDFS infrastructure, such as a name node. So we have a table with the specific jobs that are issuing the most number of HDFS write operations. We have a table that focuses on the amount of data written, so just who's producing the most data within HDFS. And if you're using HTTP 2.5, we also have some new counters you can take advantage of to identify what are the jobs that are creating the most individual files on HDFS. So these notebooks are very adaptable. You can create your own custom notebooks, and they use SQL behind the scenes. So I'm just click Show Editor. You can see in this case, this is just a SQL fragment that you can issue to produce these specific results. So a lot of our customers have created their own notebooks to kind of mix and match this data. And we'll take a look at some other notebooks that we have here too. We'll look at our MapReduce and TES dashboard. And this dashboard is really focused on just, kind of MR and TES related workloads and how much resources and duration that they're consuming on the cluster. So we can see our longest running jobs. We can see the jobs that have consumed the most memory within the cluster. And this is important as well. So what are the jobs that are wasting resources? So in this case, maybe asking for 8 gig containers, only using 6 or only using 4, and effectively wasting memory that you have available to you within Yarn. We also look for kind of a drill down of, what are the different abstractions that are producing the most work on the cluster? What are the users that are pushing the most data, both in HDFS as well as over the network? And then a breakdown of CPU usage by queue. For a lot of our customers, they want to know kind of what are my hotspots during the day? Do I have specific like Sunday nights or Monday mornings that are more busy? And maybe using this visualization, you can kind of see what are my opportunities to move workloads around to take advantage of excess resources in the cluster during certain periods of time. So the other thing I want to show you is the Yarn dashboard we have real quick. This is really focused on number of, kind of like container-based workloads. So in this case, we're looking at, what are the queues that have the longest runtime? What are the specific applications that have the most individual containers requested? What are jobs that have a lot of failed containers? Maybe it's an issue with the job or data locality. I think we also want to look at situations where there might be individual nodes that are contributing to higher durations for my job execution. So we look at specific hosts that have both high localization time as well as container launch delay as opportunities for us to look at those machines and see, is there something wrong with them? Are they contributing to a higher overall runtime of my jobs just because they have a disk issue or a slow disk or whatever it might be? So finally, one of the things that our customers have been asking for a very long time is the ability to charge back. And what we mean by this is to look at all the different types of resource utilization we have within Hadoop and give you the ability to attach kind of a monetary amount to units of those resources and then charge those back, roll it up to individual users to say, how much should I actually charge users for using my cluster? So this is very helpful in large multi-tenant clusters in which you are actively trying to bring business units on and help them quantify how much it would cost for them to come on. And when they're on the platform, just how much do you have to effectively kind of build them? And pulling all this information together has traditionally been very difficult to do. And that's really what we've automated with this capability, is both pulling the information into a single reportable store, as well as providing these visualizations to help you understand that data. And the nice thing is this data, these visualizations are very adaptable. You can download it as a CSV file or a TSV file. You can change the way data is represented in a pie chart, line chart. So you have a lot of capabilities to kind of be dynamic about how you want to show this data and slice and dice it. So those are the capabilities that we've brought to bear primarily in SmartSense 1.3. And we'll take a look at just how do we collect this information. We'll double click on the architecture so you better understand how we're actually providing this solution. So within Embari, within SmartSense, we have a new activity analyzer component. And that activity analyzer component, like I said, is deployed on your name nodes as well as one other master service. And it's in charge of effectively mining the resource utilization metrics from the different components. So from like the app timeline server, from HDFS for MapReduce data, and from the FS image of the name nodes for HDFS. We take that information, aggregate it, push it into the embedded Phoenix instance. That's part of the Embari metrics system. And then we have our Activity Explorer, which is an embedded instance of Apache Zeppelin that's pre-configured to connect to the Embari metrics system and has those pre-built notebooks that I had shown you before. So that's how we bring this solution to bear, and it's something that is really easy to install. We'll kind of walk through how you get started with SmartSense. So number one is just how do you get it. So SmartSense is included in Embari. It's built in. So if you download Embari 2.4, for example, SmartSense 1.3 is just part of the package. So you can see it's just in the list of services that you choose to deploy when you're installing the cluster. Or after you've installed Embari, you can obviously just go to Add Service, and SmartSense is in the list. Just click the button, hit Next a couple times, and that's all you got to do. From a compatibility standpoint, we want to kind of show you guys what versions of Embari SmartSense works with, as well as versions of the stack. So in order to install SmartSense 1.3, we're built in, meaning we're just part of the ad service menu in Mbari 2.4 and Mbari 2.2. If you're running older versions of Mbari, like 2.1 or 2.0, you can go to our support portal and just download a copy of SmartSense that is a pluggable. It will just plug in as an additional service to older versions of Mbari. So out of those three capabilities, faster case resolution, proactive issue detection, and the activity reporting and visualization, for our first two, we work with all versions of HTTP, so from HTTP 2.0 to 2.5. For the activity reporting and visualization, we do have a more constrained set of stacks we work with, mainly because we have to take advantage of specific versions of things like the App Timeline Server for Yarn. So our activity reporting and visualization works with HTTP 2347 and above. So HTTP 2347 is kind of the minimum version that the new activity reporting capability works with. So what we really want to do is make sure you understand what can SmartSense do for you, right? So as we've seen, we can help solve your support cases faster by reducing that initial amount of time from like a 45-minute manual task to a couple clicks and a 5-minute wait. We can help you increase your cluster throughput by giving you recommendations that are focused on understanding how your cluster is working, what kind of hardware is deployed, and finally, how you're actually using the combination of those two things. And we'll provide recommendations that can definitely increase the number of jobs that you're running, as well as reduce the overall runtime of jobs in your cluster. We also help you avoid support cases, and that's one thing we really want to focus on. Because we have that great relationship with support, we meet with them once a week to identify opportunities to write new rules, produce new recommendations to help our customers avoid issues. We can remove the likelihood of you guys having a significant issue in your cluster. And lastly, what we've demoed today, which is really helping you guys get great visibility to how your tenants are using the resources on your cluster. So with that said, I just want to kind of wrap things up and say thank you guys very much. At this point, Saeed, I think we can probably take some questions.
Yes. So thank you, Paul. That was a great presentation and a very nice demo. And I would like to mention to our audience that if you would like to submit any questions, please do so through the chat window. And I'll get started. I think we have received a couple of questions. Paul, I'm sure you get this question a lot, especially from our customers in regulated industries like financial services, insurance, or even telecommunications, where there is heightened sensitivity to confidential information being communicated outside the firewall and outside the organization. What are some of the, if you can talk about some of the safeguards built into SmartSense to addressing these customer concerns, especially for financial services and some of the other regulated industries?
Yeah, definitely, Say it's a great question. So we do have users using SmartSense in financial services, healthcare, retail, even the U.S. government. And so we work with those customers to build in a lot of flexibility around how data is captured, how data is protected, and how data is securely transmitted from your cluster to our hosted service. So we can kind of talk about some of the specific configuration options we have within SmartSense to do so. So number one is around data redaction and data anonymization. So within SmartSense, you can configure specific rules on how data should be treated. So by default, we have rules that will look for any IP address or fully qualified domain name, and we'll anonymize that data. We also have rules that will remove any kind of instances of clear text passwords that might be stored within files on the file system for HTTP components. We also have rules that focus on removing any kind of sensitive information that might leak into application logs. So we have rules for social security numbers, credit card, things of that nature. Those rules are expandable, and we have documentation for our customers to easily add additional rules that matter to them, because a lot of those regulated industries have specific types of data that they're looking to remove or redact. And what we make available to our customers is a really easy way for you to see, what are we actually capturing? So the one thing that I would say is that the best course of action to understand what are the data that we're capturing within your cluster is to get SmartSense installed Once you go to the SmartSense view, you can capture a support case or capture a case for recommendations, and then look at the data that was actually captured. So once you hit capture, we'll pack up that information, pack it into a bundle, and once we're done, you can click on this download button, and you can download an unencrypted version of that bundle. And that's just a tar.gz file, so just a gzip compressed tape archive. You can open it up, and you can take a look at all the data that we capture. And what most of our enterprise customers do is they do exactly that, capture some information, download that unencrypted bundle, and then they sit down with their security officers and they review what is captured. If there's a situation where they're like, yep, we're fine with 99% of that, but there's only a couple things that need to be either excluded or removed, we have a very flexible, like I said, a rule set that you can add to that allows you to influence or redact information. So these are the list of rules we have. As you can see, we have rules that will allow you to replace the value of like individual properties within our configuration files. So you can say like for the core.xml or high.xml, this specific property, I want you to replace the value with a static piece of text like hidden, or you can tokenize that information. And so we give our customers a lot of different capabilities around how and when these specific rules should be used and enacted. And like I said, all those requirements came from our primarily financial services and healthcare customers. So that is how we basically scrub the data automatically before it's sent. But once we scrub the data, we also encrypt the final bundle, the final file, using AES encryption before it's actually sent to Hortonworks. How we protect the transport channel from your cluster to us is really dependent on the transport mechanism that you choose. You can choose either SFTP, which we do use AES to encrypt that channel, or you can choose HTTPS. And for HTTPS, we use TLS 1.2 to secure that specific transmission channel. And we have some documentation that kind of goes through what are all the ports that are required to be open, what does the data flow look like, on docs.hortonworks.com if you guys are interested in more information.
Great. Great answer. Next question has to do, Paul, with the notebooks. So you showed some very nice-looking, rich notebooks and pre-built dashboards that provided information about, cluster utilization, things like that. Question is, can customers also build their own dashboards and reports using Zeppelin?
Yeah, great question. So yes, our customers can definitely build their own specific notebooks. And let me just find my mouse here real quick. I think my mouse is, there it is. Okay. Yep, so all you have to do is just click Create New Note, and that'll give you a blank notebook. And the easiest way to start is, to kind of find something similar to what you're aiming at, for example. So if you want to, provide maybe top 10 users of small files with some additional criteria, you can just kind of copy the SQL fragment that we have here and use that in a new note. So the nice thing is you can create as many of these new notes as you'd like with your own custom paragraphs, and you can kind of consider the default dashboards that we have to be starting points. So kind of look for something that you're looking to duplicate or extend, click Show Editor, and you can easily just grab that, paste into a new note, and you're off to the races. You can even clone these notebooks and add additional rows or paragraphs to them as well, so there's no restrictions there. What we do kind of advise you to do would be, if you want to extend the HDFS dashboard, it's probably easier for you just to export and, or in this case, clone the notebook and make your own modifications to it. That way, when you upgrade, we don't trample over your specific changes.
Great. The next question has to do with the coverage of SmartSense. It was mentioned in the presentation that Yarn, MapReduce, and Tez are monitored and analyzed using SmartSense. The question is about Spark coverage.
Yeah, excellent question. So for this specific version of the product, we've really focused on just HDFS, MapReduce, Tez, and Yarn. We don't have specific metrics gathered for Spark, but we do have that planned for our next release of SmartSense. But Spark-related workload will show up here in the Yarn dashboard when it comes to Yarn applications that are run using Spark with the amount of containers they've run, et cetera, or amount of containers that they've asked for and used. So you will be able to see some Spark-related metrics here, but we don't have the type of visibility into Spark like we would for MR and TES, but that's in the works.
Great. And this question, Paul, is from one of our customers who are running HTTP 2.3.4 version. And would like some guidance in terms of configuring SmartSense for their version of HTTP.
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so if you're looking to take advantage of the new activity reporting visualization, you just need to make sure you're on 2.3.4.7 or above of the HTTP 2.3 release line. So as long as you're on 2.3.4.7 or above, you'll be able to get SmartSense installed. In this case, it's kind of dependent on the version of Ambari that you're running. So if you're running Ambari like 2.4, for example, SmartSense 1.3 is just built right into it. So all you have to do is click Add Service. If you're running an older version of Ambari, like Ambari 2.2, then it's kind of the best course of action to just deploy the version of SmartSense that is included with that version of Ambari, and then upgrade to SmartSense 1.3. And the upgrade process is covered in our documentation.
Good. So similar question to as I asked for Spark. Similar question regarding storm coverage, whether that is currently offered.
Yeah. So today we don't offer Storm, but we do have plans for Spark, Storm, as well as HBase to be pulled into this type of activity reporting and visualization and chargeback. So kind of in order of priority for our next release, we're focusing on Spark first, and then Storm, and then HBase. So we definitely don't cover that right now, but it's definitely something that is on our roadmap.
Right. Okay. So as now we're talking about the roadmap. So essentially, SmartSense has gone from resolving support cases faster to avoiding support cases to now providing greater insight into the Hadoop clusters. What can you tell us in terms of the future functionality that you are thinking about in the future in next releases of SmartSense?
Yes, we have a lot more analytical related capabilities that are in the works right now for our next version of SmartSense. So kind of like the two primary things that we're focusing on. Number one is in this case it's going to be capacity planning. So capacity planning is one of the things that we have been working on for quite a while, because it's a specific area that our customers have a lot of challenges with. And so what we're working on now is we call kind of like an 18-month base projection. And so what that'll help you do is anytime you send us a support bundle, or I should say an analysis bundle, which is this once a week kind of proactive issue detection bundle, we'll produce a forward-looking 18-month capacity plan. So we look at things like CPU utilization, memory utilization, HDFS storage capacity, as well as yarn container utilization. We project out 18 months, identify which of those resources you will exhaust first, and then provide a node count projection that you would need for every single month, effectively. So what you end up with is, what are my resource-related utilization over the course of 18 months? Where do I hit a point at which my current cluster will be overwhelmed? And then what are the number of nodes I would need on a per month basis to be able to sufficiently get ahead of that? So that's one of the capabilities that we are in the works that we're building. We've worked with a number of our great customers as design partners as input to that. The other thing that we're working on from a roadmap perspective is a more focus on how do we give a lot of troubleshooting resources to our customers. So if you've got a Kerberos issue or you have an issue with HDFS, how can we help automate the troubleshooting process so that you would have a runbook that you could just click a button and it would do a bunch of different sanity checks. A lot of the things that support would normally run through with you on their first phone call, we're trying to automate that so we can identify and get ahead of some of those issues by having advanced troubleshooting runbooks. So those are just a couple of things that we're working on for our next release, but I think our primary focus is going to be around analytical capabilities, the capacity planning, the Spark, Storm, HBase, analysis, like I had mentioned, and then more support automation. Those are things that we're really focused on for our next release.
Great. That's very exciting. Again, I would like to remind our audience, if they would like to submit any questions, please do so using the chat window. Paul, one rather than a question, more of a request in terms of talking about like some of the customer success stories in terms of the role that SmartSense has played in real world, either avoiding some of the outages, things like that, or faster case resolution. What can you tell our audience in terms of some of the real use cases or some of the real customer success stories?
Yeah, great question. So in this case, I mean, when we look at the proactive issue detection, that's really where we try to identify a lot of different things that could cause problems for our customers. So kind of number one would be situations like you just upgraded HDFS, but you haven't finalized the upgrade, and you're about to run out of local disk space and potentially have an HDFS outage. We have rules that help customers avoid those specific problems. Situations where you set up the cluster and maybe unfortunately you set up like temp or boot or var or one of these very important critical OS partitions to store HDFS data. We have rules to get ahead of that and notifications that go out to our account teams to help them prevent those problems. We also have the capability when we're on the product side. If we're working with support, we've identified a critical issue. In one case, I think it was about 3 months ago, we noticed that in older versions of Mbari, when you set up name node HA, a specific property is set wrong. And what can happen is if your active name node goes down for whatever reason, the standby won't come up for, it could be like almost 3 hours. And so what we did is we were able to take the specific property that wasn't set. We looked in our warehouse that's included with SmartSense to identify all the customers that would be affected by that. And we were able to email those customers within 24 hours saying, hey, there's a critical issue that you have, and here's a workaround. So those types of utilities that we have at our fingertips with SmartSense help us, when a customer has an issue, quickly get the word out to other customers that would be affected. Because our goal here is really to make sure that if we have a problem, if we identify a toxic combination of configuration with one customer, other customers don't have to suffer as well. And so that's where kind of our close relationship with support, our ability to quickly turn around rules and push them into the service, helps a lot of our customers avoid issues that they would normally cause an outage. I think from a success story perspective, like I had mentioned, we've prevented people from having kind of outages within a couple of days for those HFS upgrade finalization problems, the poor partitions that would have filled up their operating systems on multiple data nodes. But we also have the capability, like I said, to really help boost the overall throughput and performance of our customers' clusters. So there's the telco customer example that I gave during the call, which we were able to double their throughput. But we also have a lot of other examples of those. We had one retail customer that was a very heavy user of Uzi. The same kind of thing. They had a very MapReduce heavy set of workloads. And with our MapReduce memory optimization rule recommendations that are really tailor fit to their specific cluster, they were able to get 45% better overall runtime of those Uzi workflows just by adding, in this case, it was 2 recommendations. So our focus is, like I said, 2 things. How do we help our customers prevent issues before they happen? And how do we give our customers the best overall throughput and performance? Because if you're looking at your Hadoop spend, a lot of it's on hardware. So we want to make sure that just via configuration, you can get more out of your hardware. And that's why we're also kind of focusing on the capacity planning, which is you guys all have to make budgeting decisions on how much hardware do you buy. How can our set of rules get you more utilization out of your existing hardware? But also, how can we help you understand where you need to be in 18 months? So, yeah, that's what I'd say.
Great. Another question, Paul, has to do with log analysis. Whether is that on the roadmap in terms of the future releases, log analysis coverage?
Yep. Yeah. So log analysis is definitely an area that we've been investing in, and we have specific internal tools within Hortonworks that analyze these bundles when they come in. So if I go back to this slide real quick. whenever you have an issue, a support-related issue, you can use our tools to pack up configuration metrics and logs to get to our support folks to help them quickly resolve that issue. And so we do have tools within our Hortonworks, our hosted support offering that will look for specific signatures within logs and provide our support engineer recommendations on log analysis. And we're building up kind of a bank of those specific signatures and known issue kind of fingerprints. And we do have plans to integrate and make that available to our customer base sometime next year, because one of the capabilities that we recently rolled out at the same time as this new SmartSense version was within Embari. So Embari has a new log search platform. It's tech preview right now with Embari 2.4, but we're planning to move that to GA very soon. And what Embari log search allows you to do is index all of our HTTP component logs. So data node logs, name node logs, Hive Server 2 logs, etc. It allows you to quickly search those logs on-prem. So you can say, show me all my DFS client exceptions, or show me all instances of IO exception for the last 2 hours, or do a live tail across all my data nodes looking for a specific block ID. Log search allows you to do that. It's a very powerful platform, and we're building in some integrations between SmartSense and log search to be able to push these specific fingerprints down to log search so that in real time we can identify issues within your cluster that manifest themselves as specific log entries and produce recommendations on the spot. Say, hey, look, you're running out of file handlers on your data node. This is a specific thing you need to change to avoid a data node from going down. So definitely stuff that's in the roadmap. Like you said, we already have stuff working here inside Hortonworks for our support engineers that we're looking to make available and integrate with log search sometime next year.
Great. I would like to mention that some of the customer success stories, or if you would like to get more in-depth information, if you can go to hortonworks.com and click on products, you'll see a link for SmartSense. From that the page, you can download a white paper that actually provides quite a few examples of what customers have been able to achieve using SmartSense, as well as what information about the versions that are covered and things like that. So all that information is available to you. Also, a recording of this webinar will be available through BrightTalk, and all the audience will receive an email from Hortonworks that will contain links to the slides that were presented. So, Paul, I think these were pretty much all the questions that we have received. Thank you very much for a great presentation and a very nice demo. And I would like to thank you, all of you, for your time today. I hope it was useful, and you would look further into SmartSense. Thank you so much, and have a nice day.
Take care.